In this crowded world with a crowded internet, you're being told thousands upon thousands of things that you ought to practice on the drums if you're a beginner. However, I'm here to simplify all that chaos for you because I believe there are really only 3 things that you actually need to practice as a beginner to quickly make progress on the drums. Hey everybody, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer, where we're all about the core drumming skills that help you make music faster. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Now, before we get too far into this video, I need you to hear this one simple statement. It's not the exercise that will make you a better drummer. It's how you use the exercise that will make you a better drummer. Having said that, we're going to put a lot of emphasis today on how we use the exercise. And so as we learn these, as we practice them, we're going to be asking the question of what are we thinking about as we're practicing? What are we looking at? What are we listening to? What is our main focus as we play this exercise? And we're also going to wrap up with a powerful tip that's really going to further accelerate your learning. So the first one is just a basic 8th, 16th exercise where we play 8th notes for a measure, then we go to 16ths. The point here is, don't get caught up in the details of the exercise and exactly what I'm doing here and what the stickings are. That doesn't matter. The point is, as we're playing this, we're using this as a tool to work our hand technique. We're using this as a tool to make sure the sticks are bouncing, that we're getting rebound. Because practicing this pattern is absolutely no good if your hands look like this. It's ridiculous, right? But if you're not gripping right and the sticks aren't moving smoothly and fluidly within your hands and they're not rebounding nicely, then you're not going to gain anything from this exercise. Your playing's actually going to get worse because you're going to lock yourself further into bad habits. So that's extremely important that as you're practicing these basic exercises, you're thinking about making sure your grip is right. Otherwise, you could actually potentially build up worse habits, like build bad habits, make bad habits worse. So we need to be building good habits and looking at our hands, watching for this stuff as we play. Now, I did a past video a couple months ago going in depth about exactly how to grip for smooth rebound. I'll throw the link in the description below, so go check that out if you want to see really a lot of detail about that and slow motion footage and up close stuff. So that basic exercise in any form of it, whether you're playing just, or maybe you're doing some triplets, it doesn't matter, whatever rudiment you're working on, whatever sticking pattern, approach it with that mindset of making sure grip is looking good, rebound is looking good, I'm comfortable, I'm relaxed up here, my hands look the same, I'm holding the sticks in the same spot. And those are the things that you want to be thinking about and keep in mind as you're doing this exercise, and that's going to help you grow tremendously, especially as a beginner. Number 2, just a basic groove. I know it sounds simple, and if you're a beginner, you might be like, okay, I learned. Done with that, check the box, move on. No. That basic groove shows up in a whole bunch of songs, and you want to be able to play that basic groove really well. So there's a lot of other things that we want to think about as we're playing that basic groove. Every time I sit down to practice, at some point near the beginning of my practice session, I'm just going to play something basic, make sure everything's feeling good, and then I'm consistent, and that my time is good, and my dynamics are good. Those are really important things to be listening for, and so there's kind of all these different aspects of it that we want to think about. And so we work on those first exercise hand patterns to work on grip, and then we work on a basic groove directly to improve our coordination, making sure our coordination's together, and to make sure our time is good because we're practicing along to a metronome. But more indirectly, we want to think about dynamics, we want to think about feel, we want to think about dynamic consistency. What I would encourage you to do, this is actually a really fun way to practice this, is play this groove different ways. Like think about, okay, how would Ringo Starr play this pattern, this groove? Maybe the snare is going to be more dead. So I'm going to throw this on here, and I've got the snares pretty tight. And so he might play it, and it might sound like. Everything's balanced, where we've got a good amount of kick, a good amount of snare, hi-hats aren't overpowering. But let's say maybe we want to play this the way John Bonham might play it. Or let's say, okay, let's play this groove the way Dave Grohl might have played it on a Nirvana or Foo Fighters record. And so that encourages you to think about the same groove at different tempos and different contexts, at different volumes, different balances. And whatever you're doing, you want to think about, okay, if I'm hitting cymbals hard, I'm going to hit the snare hard enough that the snare can still be felt and heard in the midst of all the cymbal. That's why in my Ringo example, everything was quiet, but in my Grohl example, cymbals were loud, so I had to hit the snare harder and play the kick louder. So you want to make sure you're hearing everything. You also want to make sure that every time you hit your backbeat, your 2 and 4 on the snare, it feels the same. It's the same volume. That puts the listener at ease. Same with the kick drum. Make sure it's that same strength. As you're working on these grooves, think about those things that need to be consistent in these basic grooves and make sure they sound right, they feel right. These are things that you never stop working on. You don't just check the box when you move on to maybe an intermediate status and say, okay, I'm done with basic grooves. I'm going to go learn complex grooves now. No, you can work on the complex stuff. That's great. Work on rudiments, work on more intricate things, more challenging things. But always go back to working on basics, making sure they feel good and that the time is good and that your dynamics are good and the balance is good, because that's extremely important. Very important to fast progress on the drums, making your playing sound very professional in an early stage. Number 3, listen to music. I know that's not the kind of exercise you would expect here when we're talking about like physical exercises. But that's a very important thing to do. And honestly, these 3 things, if that's all that you do, you're going to make a lot of progress really fast. If you're working on your grip and your basics and you're working on making basic things feel good, and you're listening to music and you're thinking about how to sound musical and how to play musical parts and you're working on learning songs, you're going to go really far in a short amount of time. And it doesn't matter that you don't have crazy chops around the kit. If you can play your favorite song really well, that's awesome. And so that's a great place to be. So listen to a lot of music, find a favorite band, really dig into it. Spend a lot of time listening to how the drum parts interact with the melody and with the other parts of the song. And the more music you listen to, the more you develop a sense of what feels right in terms of what fill to play, what groove pattern to play, and you develop a vocabulary. Okay, so earlier I mentioned a powerful tip that's going to further accelerate all of this if you're practicing these 3 things, and that tip is record yourself. You've heard me say that. Maybe you're thinking, Steven, record what? What do I need to record myself doing? Well, there's a few things. You can pull out your phone. I've got my phone right here filming. And this is an iPhone 6. It does pretty decent slow-mo video, but a lot of you guys have newer phones than that do really good slow-mo video. So film yourself doing these exercises. Film it in slow motion. Look at your hands. Are your hands looking good? Is that rebound smooth? Film it from a couple of angles. Really evaluate yourself. There's no reason not to. We've got all these technological resources that make this so easy. Record yourself playing a basic beat. Record it with your phone. If it sounds good, record it on your phone, then you know that you're playing it well. And so practice playing balanced. If you hear on the recording that the hi-hats are washing everything out, quiet them down a little bit, bring the drums up a little more. If cymbals are getting too washy and too crazy, just record yourself playing along to your favorite song. Listen back to it. Are you pushing ahead? Are you rushing the fills? Or are you falling behind? Practice figuring out how to sit in that pocket and how to lock in with that drummer on the recording. You might need to push a little bit. If you're playing along to the Police, like Stuart Copeland, he's going to be pushing. Or if you're playing a lot of Zeppelin songs, those are kind of laying back. Bonham kind of lays back a lot of times and kind of has that loose kind of feel. And so practice playing along to records and record yourself doing that to really check your progress so you can be honest with yourself and know how you're sounding. So take these exercises, take these methods, apply them to your playing, do them, you will see growth. Leave a comment below and tell me how these are working for you if you've practiced this stuff before, or shoot me an email. Hey, if you feel like you're a bit beyond beginner status, maybe you're getting into intermediate stuff and you want to improve your hand technique and improve your groove even more, check out the free ebook below. It's called The Secret to Playing Hi-Hat 16th, specifically one-handed hi-hat 16ths. In this ebook, we break down into 5 lessons, just the basic hand technique for doing that Moeller 2-stroke pattern, which you can practice on a pad anywhere, anytime. And then we translate that to the hats and we talk about how to really make it feel good, how to make it fluid and flow just like Jeff Porcaro did with his hi-hat pattern in Rosanna. This is a tried and true method for really improving your hi-hat 16ths, which will improve your groove, improve your time. Not to mention it's just really cool. And so go check that out, download it, it's totally free. Get going today. With 15 minutes of practice every day with this stuff, you're gonna make a ton of progress. You're gonna be amazed at how quickly you can actually improve on the hats.